Hello and welcome to Rise and Unwind Orlando. I'm Chris Molony. Every week we bring you things you can do right here in your neighborhood. On this week's show, we got this.
Well, you know, we sometimes think of acne as a condition that we only see in teenagers, but that's actually a myth.
We had completed the movie. They did the post-production process. It's testing really well. And then Warner Brothers comes in and just says, nope, we're going to just throw this movie in the garbage can. Nobody's going to ever see it. And we're going to take a tax write-off.
All that and more right here on Rise and Unwind Orlando.
Have you ever wondered what it takes to turn a classic story into something that feels fresh for a new generation? A Woman of Substance tells a story of Emma Harte, a woman who rises from humble beginnings to become one of the most powerful business figures of the 20th century. So joining us today are Jessica Reynolds and Brenda Blethyn, who play Emma at different stages of her remarkable life. Welcome to the show, you two. How are you?
Yeah,
good,
thank you.
All right, so for viewers who may not know the story, what is it about Emma Harte that has made a Woman of Substance such an enduring character for generations?
Well, it's a wonderful story of rags to riches, really, in a nutshell. A woman who rises from poverty against all the odds to become the richest woman in the world. And she's driven by a sense of justice and to get revenge on people who did her wrong.
What she said.
And Jessica, we first meet Emma as a young woman with enormous ambition. What drew you to her, and what was the biggest challenge in bringing that version of Emma to life?
I think it's just such an inspiring story, and to have a period piece that is also from a working class woman's perspective is quite rare, and to see her kind of grow and evolve into this larger than life version of herself, you know, like I can't imagine her ambitions were to be the richest woman in the world, but it happened for her. And I think that's because of the traumatic background and the difficult background that she comes from, and it just shows the strength of those communities and people from those backgrounds. So that was very alluring, yeah.
And Brenda, you play Emma after she's built this incredible empire. What do you enjoy most about stepping into such an iconic role?
The costumes, the makeup. After playing DCI Vera Stanhope for 14 years, it's quite nice to get out of the Mac and the hat and the grotty old house she lived in. But she's such an iconic character, and some people would say not particularly sympathetic. I often play sympathetic characters, so this was a bit of a diversion for me, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Even though you two are playing the same character at different ages, what conversations did the two of you have to make sure Emma felt like the same person throughout her journey?
Zero.
Okay.
I think like that there's such a distance between them, not only in age but also in experience. Like I think one of the biggest points is that she becomes a completely different person, and it's up for the audience to decide whether that's for the better or not.
And Emma refuses to accept the limitations society places on her. Why do you think her story still resonates with audiences today?
Because there's still a bit of a discrepancy between, equal wages between men and women. I bet a female engineer doesn't get as much as a male engineer, and in lots of professions there's not equality, and there should be.
Hey, I want to thank you two for joining me today. A Woman of Substance is now available on BritBox. For more information and to learn more about the series, visit BritBox.com. Jessica, Brenda, I really want to thank you two for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So what happens after you leave the biggest band in music history? For Paul McCartney, the end of the Beatles wasn't the end of the story. It was the start of a whole new chapter. Man on the Run from Oscar-winning director Morgan Neville takes us inside Paul's post-Beatles years, the launch of Wings, and a deeply personal decade that shaped his solo legacy. Morgan joins us today to talk about the film Paul McCartney, Man on the Run, which is now available on Prime Video. Welcome to the show, Morgan. How are you?
I'm very good. Good talking to you.
All right, the Beatles breakup is one of the most talked about moments in music history. What did you discover about Paul during that immediate aftermath that might surprise some of the fans out there?
I mean, so much. I mean, if you watch Get Back, Peter Jackson's kind of 8-hour version of the Beatles at the end, making Let It Be, you see Paul is driving everything. Songs are pouring out of him. And the question is, what happens the day that disappears? And what happens is that Paul has a true heartbreak. I mean, he's the one that wanted the Beatles more than anybody. And, he essentially is told by John Lennon that John wants a divorce from the band. And Paul, within 2 weeks, runs off to Scotland with his new wife, Linda, and their new baby, Mary, and tries to figure out what he's going to do. Is he even going to make music anymore? And so these next few years, he really struggles. And that's the part of the story I don't think people really understand, and that whole life of him trying to figure out who he was if he wasn't a Beatle.
So what was that period for him, creatively and personally, and him trying to find himself?
It was in some ways, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. I mean, I think, publicly, the public was angry that because they were heartbroken. So how dare you guys break up? Why can't you just be the Beatles? What are you doing? And Paul's wife, Linda, takes a lot of flack for, did she help break up the band? Same thing happened with John and Yoko. There's just a lot of kind of anger, and the critics are saying, your music isn't as good as what the Beatles were. It was kind of an impossible shadow to escape, but that's Paul's mission. He has no choice but to try and escape it. So he tries and tries different things for years to kind of see who am I and what is my voice now as just Paul McCartney. And part of that then comes into fruition when he starts the band Wings. So it's the model he knows. I'm going to be in a band with some other people, and there's a camaraderie to it that makes me feel like I'm not alone. And through that, he finally starts doing albums like Band on the Run and becomes kind of more the Paul of who we know today.
And we also get to see some rare archival footage and a little bit of intimate family photography from Linda McCartney. How did those elements help you tell a more vulnerable side of Paul's story?
I mean, there's incredible footage we found. I mean, there's footage of Paul filming himself alone, writing songs at a piano, or with the kids, and the singing songs at Christmas time. There is a real intimacy to the footage. That's really the main thing I wanted to convey, that this is a story kind of from the inside out. It's a story where we really kind of understand what Paul was dealing with and how he was dealing with it. You see an insecurity in Paul that I don't think you really see publicly.
So what do you think the story tells about resilience and reinvention?
I mean, I think it's a story, and Paul's story is how not to doubt your own creative instincts. I think, the world always wants you to doubt what you do and judge what you do. And I think Paul's strength at this time is, I'm going to do whatever the hell I feel like. And that's fine. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, fine. And he does some crazy things that work and things that don't work. He releases, Mary Had a Little Lamb as a 45, which, nobody particularly likes. But then he puts out Mull of Kintyre, which becomes the biggest selling single in England in history. So they're both kind of crazy ideas. But I think he was all about embracing the crazy idea at the time. So creatively, I think it's pretty inspirational.
And for some of the lifelong Beatle fans out there, or even some of the brand new fans that may just know Paul from today, what do you hope audiences may take away after watching Man on the Run?
I mean, I know, because everybody tells me this, when you're done watching the film, you're going to go listen to a lot of music because there's a lot of music to explore. But also just an understanding that Paul's a real person dealing with real issues that are actually pretty relatable.
Morgan, I want to thank you for joining me today. Paul McCartney, Man on the Run, is available now on Prime Video. It's an intimate look at a music icon, redefining himself in real time, and it's a must-watch for any music fan. Morgan, Neville, I want to thank you for joining me today.
Great talking to you.
Jep and Jessica Robertson became familiar faces with the Robertson family on Duck Dynasty, but now they're trading the Louisiana Bayou for a new chapter in Texas. Their new series, Jep and Jess Beyond the Bayou, follows life at Comanche Moon Ranch and their efforts to build a community around family, hard work, and at a little slower pace of life. Welcome to the show, you two. How are you?
Good, thanks for having us.
Okay, you guys made a pretty big change going from Louisiana to this new life in Texas. What made you decide it was time for a new chapter?
Well, I feel like it was a God thing. It just came about. We met with Bill Abbott, Great American Media, and Caitlin Holbrook, and we were just sharing life with them. We had worked with Great American Media on several projects, and by the end of lunch, they were like, "We've never done a unscripted show, but let's do one." And we were like, "Oh my goodness, okay." And then kind of went to the drawing board of like what this could look like, and so. We really do think that God opened this door, and after meeting with the kids and kind of analyzing the pros and cons, we decided let's do this adventure.
And this is more than just moving to a ranch. What are you hoping to build at Comanche Moon Ranch?
So we've actually built some really cool, unique stays, and it's funny, that was kind of something that wasn't planned at first. We were just getting a little ranch out there. I mean, what I will say about this show is it's very, very authentic. This is what we're actually doing, and we're just kind of documenting everything that's happened up to this point. And yeah, it's been amazing. It's just a beautiful property. You can come out, like people can come out and stay here. And there's actually, like, if you're watching it and you're like, oh man, I love those ranches out there. Yeah. We have little ranches for sale. You get to come out and buy a ranch if you want to.
And be a neighbor.
It's really cool.
I think the big thing is, like, when we got out there, we had kind of a vision for, going out there. And then once we got out there, I just feel like the doors kept opening, visions kept coming, and it became a bigger picture than what our little small minds anticipated. And really just looking at it as knowing that this will outlive us, and think about all the families, all the people, all the community groups, and father, son, getaways. I think there's just a lot of special moments that will happen out there, and it's going to outlive us. And that's such an amazing thing.
And we get to see everything from big ranch projects to family dinners and welcoming new neighbors. What was important to you about showing that side of your lives?
Well, I mean, community is a big deal to us. And the first episode is kind of us talking about with our group, our church group, kind of this decision and should we do it? And it took a lot of prayer and thoughtfulness. And I think that just kind of shows you kind of where we're at in life and what community means to us. Mm-hmm. And we've met some amazing people out at the ranch, our neighbors. They're super cool. And that's what we like about it. We play pickleball together. So it's just a really neat place to get out, unplug from the busy hustle bustle of life.
And you've both spent a lot of your lives around cameras. How does Beyond the Bayou feel different from what viewers have seen from you before?
I think for one, it's, we're doing this kind of on our own with just our kids, and then actually get to introduce some of our community, our new friends out in Texas. Some are old friends. We've made some new friends, and I think that's the beauty of it is building a community wherever you're at, and being vulnerable, going out there and meeting people and being a support system for each other.
And there's a bigger idea in the show about slowing down and building a life that really means something to you. Has making this move changed what happiness or success looks like for you and your family?
I don't know about that, but something I guess we've been talking about a lot is, my mom told me when I was a kid, a true friend cares about your soul more than your happiness. And that always affected me. And it's something I try to live by, is like, I would rather, follow Christ is what we do than anything else. And so, our faith really comes out in this show, and which I think is just us. So,
Jep, Jess, Beyond the Bayou is streaming on Great American Pure Flix with new episodes Thursdays. You can also catch it Saturdays at 9 on Great American Family and GFAM+. Thank you two for joining me today.
Thank you.
Acne is something we often associate with our teenage years, but for millions of adults, the breakouts never really go away. And with so many products and treatments available, figuring out what actually works can be frustrating. Dr. Heather Woolery-Lloyd is a board-certified dermatologist who can help us understand why acne persists and what a new over-the-counter treatment option could mean for patients. Welcome, Dr. Woolery-Lloyd.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Now, why does acne become a long-term ongoing condition for some people?
Well, we sometimes think of acne as a condition that we only see in teenagers, but that's actually a myth. So in my practice, I see a lot of adults with acne, adult men, adult women who have acne into their 20s, 30s, 40s. This is particularly more common in women. And that's because there's a strong hormonal component to acne. So of course, that's why teenagers get acne, because there's a lot of hormonal changes when you're a teenager. But for adult women, that can also cause acne. So this is something I see in my practice all the time, and it's very common.
What are some of the common mistakes people make when they try to treat breakouts on their own?
Well, I think people really make two big mistakes. The biggest mistake is being impatient. So I'll find that patients will use a product for a week or two and say, oh, that didn't work, and then switch to another product and say that didn't work. And they end up cycling through products and not giving the treatment enough time to do its job. And then the second thing is using too many products. So some people will use 4, 5, 6 different skincare products trying to manage their acne, and that can often lead to irritation. So being impatient and using too many products are probably the biggest mistakes people make.
All right, you mentioned people often jumping from one acne product to another. What tends to drive that cycle?
Mainly people are impatient, and I totally understand because acne is very difficult to deal with. I had adult acne. I know what it's like to have a pimple at an important meeting and you really want to get better yesterday. But it really takes time for acne products to work. So Differin Epiduo, which is a product that was a prescription, is now available over the counter. Some people can see results in as little as a week, but really you need 90 days of consistent use to see the best results. So it's so important to be patient and consistent.
You mentioned this prescription strength treatment is now moving over the counter. What's the significant about that change?
Well, it's extremely important to me as a dermatologist because it's the most effective acne treatment approved by the FDA for over-the-counter use. So this is something that I used to write prescriptions for, and now people can buy it over the counter. So it's very, very useful because it improves access. I know that a lot of patients don't have access to a dermatologist. People don't have the ability to go and see their local dermatologist. So it allows people who have acne to get a dermatologist-backed treatment that's now over the counter. It also allows people who might have been given this prescription by their dermatologist, but if their insurance didn't cover it, they couldn't get it. Now they can get it over the counter. So I love that it improves access.
What should people keep in mind when building a simple, consistent acne routine?
I think it's important to keep it simple. I love that you said the word simple because that's the key thing. You want to be simple and consistent. So if you're using your acne treatment in the morning, you would just use a gentle cleanser. You would use the Differin Epiduo. I always say less is more. So a small pea-sized amount on your fingertip, and then you apply it to the full face, and then a moisturizer with sunscreen in the morning. But if you're a nighttime person and you prefer to do your acne treatments at night, it's the same 3-step regimen. So you would cleanse, use the Differin Epiduo, and then a moisturizer at night. So it depends on when you like to do your treatments, but it really is simple. It's 3 steps. It's very easy and convenient. And when you're consistent, that's when you'll see results.
Who is this new over-the-counter option best suited for?
So it's for people 12 years of age and older who have pimples, blackheads, whiteheads, mild to moderate acne. And I love it because it's so simple. It's 1 pump once a day. So it makes it easy to be consistent. It's for people who are overwhelmed by having so many treatments, people who have been using multiple products or not seeing the results they want to see. So I love that it simplifies the approach to acne. It's 1 pump once a day, and you just need to be consistent and be patient.
Where can our viewers go to learn more?
So it's easy to find this product over the counter. It's available at CVS, Walgreens, Walmart, Target, even online on Amazon. And then if you really want to learn more, you can also go to Differin.com.
Dr. Woolery-Lloyd, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
After decades of getting blown up, flattened, and generally destroyed by Acme products, Wile E. Coyote is finally doing something about it. He's suing. Coyote versus Acme takes that wonderfully ridiculous idea and turns it into a live-action courtroom comedy with a surprising amount of heart. Will Forte and Lana Condor join us now Welcome to the show, you two. How are you?
Thank you. And by the way, it's great to talk to you because we made this movie in Albuquerque.
That's right.
Yes, it's an Albuquerque film. I've been waiting and wanting to see this. When somebody first told you about Wile E. Coyote suing Acme, what was your reaction?
I thought it was
really
hysterical.
Yeah.
It's really funny. This was a New Yorker piece. I believe his name is Ian Fraser, wrote this back in the 90s, I think. And so, it's been kicking around for a while, and then finally people wrote it up. So it's comes from this incredibly funny writer, and then adapted by this amazing Oscar-nominated writer, Sammy Birch. And by the time we got it, it was just this wonderful script that was like, oh my God, but do we get to be in this movie? It was a no-brainer. Just so fun.
And you spend so much of the time playing opposite Wile E. Coyote, and he doesn't talk. So it turned into a pretty long monologue, my friend. How do you make an animated coyote feel like a real scene partner?
Well, we were really set up for success. Our production, our director, Dave Green, he brought in Dave Barkley, who is an iconic puppet master, and so he built a live action to scale Coyote, and then he would go in as Coyote and he would puppet Coyote through the scenes when we were rehearsing, so we could get a general sense of where he was in the room, kind of how he was feeling, and then they would pull the puppet away and they would put in tennis balls, and that's kind of how we filmed. That's kind of how we filmed our interactions with Wiley, and to be honest, like having that resource of Dave Barkley and having him there and being so great at his job and being so great at being Wiley, that changed a lot for me. Like, it was very valuable for me.
Yeah, he really brought the scene to life and made it much easier than you would think.
Yeah.
And this movie has its own kind of specific kind of comedy, especially because it takes place in the Looney Tunes world. What was your key to finding your position in that place?
Well, look, I mean, for me, it was easy because I was a big Looney Tunes fan growing up, and I would watch it on Saturdays and every day after school. So like that mindset, in a lot of ways, that helped shape my comedic sensibilities. And Sammy, the screenwriter, and Dave, the director, stay very true to the Looney Tunes tone. You know, so I think that Looney Tunes fans are going to be very happy with how these characters are portrayed, and it's just like it's really fun. So, but the script is written in such a way that like it is pretty laid out. She does a very good job of creating this template for your character, and it made it pretty easy to act. And if you got off track just a little bit, Dave Green, our director, would just nudge you along into the right place. And
what surprised me was how much you actually care about Wile E. Coyote and his plight by the end. Why do you think we root for this guy after all these years?
I mean, God, he's the classic underdog. He's a character that gets up every single day and try again. And even when it's not the result that he wants, and he goes home battered and bruised, he gets up again the following day and he tries again. And I think that that's just that character, someone who's that tenacious and focused and so steadfast in his goal. Like, I think that's very, very inspiring. And for me, I think that, like, I mean, even with the poster, like he's pushing up this big bomb, and it's gonna fall, I'm assuming, and he's probably gonna keep pushing it up the hill. And I think that's a beautiful message for people to hear. And for me, honestly, I'm pretty proud to be a part of a movie that champions their main character, Wile E. Coyote, as someone who will get up and try again, even in the face of adversity.
And there's plenty here for longtime Looney Tunes fans. It doesn't have to or just completely depend on nostalgia. How important was it that it worked for also a new audience?
I think it was really important that it worked for a new audience, for sure. I mean, I can speak, like, for me, like, my parents introduced me to Looney Tunes, but it wasn't a major fixture, like, in my own personal life as growing up as a child. So my real true love for Looney Tunes started doing this movie and is now. And I really, really think that something that I love the most about this movie is if you've never even seen a Looney Tunes cartoon in your life, you can watch this film and you will fall in love with the world. So I definitely think that it's very important to try and create a film that's obviously for the diehard fans that have loved this and has been a huge part of their lives. But I also think it's very important to create a film that anyone can go to.
Yeah, I mean, there is a little extra level of nostalgic sweetness if you
of course.
Do know the Looney Tunes, but the story is just so solid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know anything about Lord of the Rings before I watched that, and I loved it.
There you go.
Like Harry Potter.
Absolutely. And we got to give a little love to the New Mexico filmmakers out here. So much was shot here. It's based in New Mexico in Albuquerque. This isn't the first time you've shot a movie out here. You did MacGruber out here as well. What do you remember most about making the movie in Albuquerque and some of the uphill battle you guys went through to try to make this film?
Well, you know what? Albuquerque has a very special place in my heart. I've made the MacGruber movie here, Beer Fest I was in out here, MacGruber TV series, and then Coyote versus Acme. And I got married in Albuquerque. We got married during the shooting of MacGruber, so it holds a very special place in my heart, and I just have such fond feelings. Love everything about it. So beautiful.
Great food. Great people, great crews.
Green chilies. Oh, I can't get enough of them. Those hatch chilies, right? Anyway, the roller coaster ride that happened to this, a very emotional roller coaster ride. We had completed the movie. They did the post-production process. It's testing really well. And then Warner Brothers comes in and just says, nope, we're going to just throw this movie in the garbage can. Nobody's going to ever see it. And we're going to take a tax write-off. And we hadn't seen the movie yet. So when we saw it for the first time a week after that decision, it was mind-boggling. I had gone in thinking, oh, this has got to suck, right? Because that's why else would they be doing this? And then I see this very special, incredible, funny, and emotionally resonant movie. I was so frustrated that I didn't get to share this beautiful movie with my kids. And it just was this horrible feeling. And then we were forced to kind of move on from it because there was nothing we could do. But as we were moving on and trying to get other work, a bunch of people made a bunch of noise about it. They wouldn't stop making their voices be heard. And eventually Warner Brothers had to take note. And they eventually, I think, just got sick of all these people saying stuff. So they sold it to Catch Up Entertainment. And it's just great because this, and now it's coming out in movies because of these people. And it's so great because the on-screen story is about an underdog taking out a big corporation. And the off-screen story is the same thing. It's all these underdogs who banded together to make their voices heard. And because of them, they took on this corporation and beat them.
Will, Lana, I really want to thank you two for joining me. Coyote versus Acme hits theater August 28th. It's a blast. I definitely say you should check it out. Thank you two for joining me today.
Thank you very much.
That's it for Rise and Unwind Orlando. Thanks for tuning in and checking out the show. Find us on social media at Rise Unwind. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube if you want to subscribe and check out our new show every week. Thanks again for tuning in, and until next week, that was Rise and Unwind.